Welcome to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. You will hear from industry leaders covering innovative, cutting-edge business, learning, and HR topics that weave current market research and technology into each episode. Our Excellence at Work podcast is hosted by Brandon Hall Group's Chief Operating Officer and Principal HCM Analyst, Rachel Cook.
Thank you for tuning in to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. We have a fantastic episode with Tal Goldhamer, the Chief Learning Officer from EY. I'm really excited to have you here today. How are you doing, Tal?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me, Rachel.
And we're going to be talking about one of your programs in specific, the around personal purpose and vision. It's called the Pathway to Purpose, and you had received a Brandon Hall Group Excellence Award, a gold one, in 2021, along with two other awards last year for your excellence in areas of learning and talent. So we're excited to be talking about this program in particular. I know you have a lot of passion about it, and you've been at EY for 27 years. I believe that's correct, and you continuously find ways to create learning moments and opportunities to excite and motivate those around you. This program in particular is an example of that. And you, just a little bit more about you to share with our audience today. You oversee 80,000 or over 80,000 people at EY Americas across 31 countries. And, we were talking a little bit about your mission, and your mission is to help people do better, help people thrive. And by how you, just the way that you light up when you talk about it, you feel very compelled to help other people do better. And by doing so, feel that they will continue that work and help others. And, I think that's just fantastic to have that philosophy, and it speaks to itself by what you've introduced at EY. And so, can you share a little bit about what is EY's Pathway to Purpose?
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction. Thank you so much for having me. And we love talking about the program because we feel that when we talk about the program, it hopefully will inspire others to do similar things with the people they work with. So thanks for having me here. The Pathway to Purpose program, as you pointed out, you mentioned that we're focused on both purpose and vision, and that's right. So let me just say that although the program is called Pathway to Purpose, it's really about purpose and vision. And a lot has been written about purpose and vision on covers of magazines and headline articles and lots of different things. And we said, all right, well, there's something here. We need to look into this. And so when you look at purpose and vision, the place that most people start with is organizational purpose and vision. What's the purpose of this company, or what vision does this company have? And at EY, we did the same thing about, 7, 8, 9 years ago. We began on a journey and said, well, we've been around for, some of our member firms have been around over 150 years. Like, what really is our purpose? We do a lot of things for clients, with clients, but what's really our purpose? And we declared publicly, after a lot of searching into our history, we declared publicly that we are in existence. The thing that we do as an organization is build a better working world. We are building a better working world in all the things that we do, which is great for an organization to publicly proclaim that. But then you say, how do you actually activate it with the people inside that organization? And that's what we really set out to do, is say, how do we help all of our people lead with purpose, lead with vision, activate it for themselves? So we created a program, the program you mentioned, Pathway to Purpose. Pathway to Purpose, what is it? It's a program that helps people discover their personal purpose and personal vision, and helps them understand how they can actually put it to use. It's one thing to discover it, it's another thing to actually put it to use. So we cover both of those things. And I will also mention, as you pointed out, my role, my title, my job is I'm a Chief Learning Officer. And so you'd say, well, is this really learning? The answer is yes. This is not learning in the traditional sense. We're not teaching people knowledge. We're not teaching people a skill, although maybe this is a little bit of knowledge and skill as well. But this is really a program around self-reflection. This is a program around helping people discover something that is inside them that they don't have the words for, and they don't have because you don't have the words, you don't know actually how to put it to use, and you don't have the clarity of how to use it. So if
Right.
it's okay, I'll also just share like the way we define purpose and vision, because I think that'll be a big part of the conversation here today. So because a lot is written about purpose, and you can Google purpose and vision, and you can get, you find thousands of hits, and almost everyone has a slightly different way to define it. So I'll just share how we define it. So purpose, and remember I said there's purpose and vision at the organizational level, but there's also personal purpose and vision. Purpose is that description of, it's a set of words that describes what gives us great fulfillment. It's that feeling like I have meaning from this, whatever this is. I have fulfillment from this, whatever this is. Vision is a description of a future that inspires either me or me and others. So purpose is about fulfillment. It's about giving me fulfillment from something. Vision is a future that I imagine for myself or for the people around me, or some kind of future. I'll also share that personal purpose is, this might be surprising to some of your listeners, personal purpose, we all have one. And for most of us, it was set by the time we were in our early 20s. So it's really shaped by the experiences we have in our early years. For some people, it goes back to when they're 6, 7, 8 years old. They might have a memory of something that helps shape their purpose. Most people, it's in their teens, their early teens to mid-teens, and some in their early 20s. But all of us have a personal purpose, and it's shaped by our past experiences. Vision.
I'm sorry. Can you share what your personal purpose is?
Sure, happy to. So my personal purpose, and well, I'm happy to share it. Let me just say that I don't go around usually sharing my personal purpose with others as a purpose statement. I'll share it with you here today, and your listeners here today.
My reason why I'm asking you is because I think your example of what your personal purpose is so simple, but yet just if all leaders could do this, I think it just helps open that door and kind of, and it then frames up what your vision is. So, and I interrupted you before you defined vision, so feel free to kind of.
Well, we can come back to that. We can come back to that, but it's a great question. So I'll share my personal purposes, and you're absolutely right. When used well, and it doesn't have to, there's no exact right way to use it, but when used well enough, personal purpose can help people connect. So my personal purpose is to make things better for others so that they can thrive, and in turn, make things better for others. So for me, it's about helping people be better, or help just make things better for them so that they can be the best that they can be, so they can, if you think about a ripple effect, they can then affect positively and make things better for lots of other people. So my entire life, my entire career, certainly over the past 27 years, has been about doing, well, I started in client service, all sorts of different projects and things. But when I look back and say, what are the things, what are the projects, what are the experiences that I've had over the years that have really given me great fulfillment? It was always about when I help make things better for others so that they can do well, and in turn, make things better for others. An example, so in client service, when I worked at EY in client serving all sorts of clients and all sorts of different types of projects, if I saw situations where the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding something was causing somebody around me to be inefficient, to spend more time that they needed to, or to spin their wheels, as they often say, that would drive me crazy. And I always felt compelled, right? I felt like a personal, like an internal compelling feeling to want to help them, because I said, if I can just help them be a little bit better and more efficient, well, first of all, they'll be able to leave work earlier, they'll be able to do other things, they'll be able to spend more time with their family after work, whatever it might be. And I would hope that they would be able to pass that on and help others. So this incredible ripple effect, me helping them. And I always, even on those really tough days, those days when I was exhausted and I was, something went wrong, whatever it is. But if I look back today, and I didn't have the words back then, but if I look back at some of those experiences and I think, like, why did I feel good at the end of those types of days? It's because something happened on those days where I actually lived my purpose. I actually helped people get better so that they can thrive and in turn make things better for others. And I might have seen that happening, but I didn't have the words around it, which is why, many of us struggle to understand what really gives us great fulfillment, which is why we built this program to help people overcome that.
And it's great too, especially when you have, you onboard a lot of employees all the time.
Yeah, we do.
Roughly, what would you say, how many new employees do you onboard at a given week or a given month?
Well, I could tell you, over the past year, we have been growing significantly. So globally, over the past year, I think it's around 12 months, we've onboarded about 150,000 people.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And a huge percentage of that is new employees that are coming out of graduating college and starting in companies for the first time. And we talked a bit about too is that a high percentage of millennials just cannot articulate their purpose, and in essence that then creates that turnover. You see so many people going into the workforce, changing their careers, changing companies, going to another company, thinking that they're going to find something better, and then they spend another year somewhere else and another year somewhere else. And being in the research industry for so long, we always see that you really can't do anything great in a year. You can't influence, you can't make change. You really have to, you have to give it some time. And oftentimes it's, and you've explained it well, it's, if they can't articulate what fulfills them, then how can they feel that the work that they're doing is meaningful? And meaningful is a big topic too, that we see in our research. Is a lot of companies or a lot of people leave companies not because they're not getting paid enough, but they just don't feel that they're doing meaningful work. So, I guess, can you share what an example of what the program looks like if, let's say Rachel was going through the program?
Yeah.
What would that experience look like?
Yeah, and before I do, if it's okay, I want to build on something you just said, which is millennials joining the workforce, and now, of course, Gen Z. And we have a lot to thank them for, because the millennial generation, when they were entering the workforce, it was around the time that many news outlets, media outlets were talking about the importance of purpose, less so on vision, right? We'll come back to vision. I know we want to get back to that, but less so on vision, but they were talking about purpose, and it became a word that everyone understood, that it was really important to find a job, do the things you love, do the things that give you great fulfillment, that are very purposeful. It became, but virtually nowhere does it tell you how to actually clearly articulate and then use that personal purpose. The words that I shared with you about my personal purpose, the importance of knowing the words, of me knowing the words, is it keeps it very simple, clear, it's articulated, it's in your mind. It's not a paragraph. For me, it was a sentence. You asked me for it. I was able to convey it pretty easily because it really does resonate me. It's my purpose. But the words feel right to me, and so they're easily accessible to me when I have to think about it, and certainly when you ask about it. When millennials entered the workforce, there was so much written about and all over the place around purpose, that we need to thank them for the fact that they don't want to settle for mediocrity. They don't want to settle for jobs and life experiences in a life that isn't fulfilling to them. So they are demanding, not necessarily with picket signs and striking, but they're demanding from employers, by virtue of the fact that if they don't feel like they get it from an organization, they're going to go to another organization. They're demanding from employers, they're demanding from all of us that they have a purposeful experience in their job, in their work experience. So we do have millennials to thank for that. And by the way, we have Gen Zs who are right behind them and doing the same thing. I'll also just add one more thing, and then we'll get back to what the program is, which I know is your question, which is this is biological. This is not our opinion. This is actually biological. If you go back thousands and thousands of years, purpose, as we defined it, is about what gives us great fulfillment, and it's from the impact that we are generally having on others. So that's what purpose is. If you go back thousands of years, when we lived on savannas in tribes, everyone in the tribe had a role. There was the hunters, there was the gatherers, there was the fire starters, there was the night watchman, and the night watchman stayed up all night making sure that the fire didn't go out and that saber-toothed tigers weren't coming around, going to destroy the tribe, because the survival of the tribe was at stake. And when that night watchman felt that, that he or she was contributing to the survival of the tribe, that gave that tribesman meaning. Same thing with the hunters. When they felt like they were going out, they knew that they were contributing to the survival of the tribe. And the impact that they had to the community is what gave them fulfillment and meaning. And they didn't have these words. Now, fast forward, right? When we got into more modern society, if we call it that, which is, let's take a shoemaker, right? Somebody who is a shoemaker in the village years ago. Like, you'd go to the village shoemaker. The shoemaker would probably know your family. They probably made shoes for your parents. They would measure your feet. They'd make you a shoe. And when that shoemaker saw the shoes that shoemaker made on feet around town, they would feel that they contributed in some meaningful way to the society. All right, then you fast forward a little bit more, Industrial Revolution. Now you have factories that are making shoes. Then the Industrial Revolution advances more, and the factories are now further away from us, and the people who are making the shoes have no connection to the people who are wearing the shoes. And then the millennials come into the workforce, and they hear that purpose is important, and they're trying to make sense of the work that they're doing and trying to say, like, what impact am I having from the work that I'm doing? So it caused this moment of wake up, which is what led us to build the program. We said, listen, we as an organization, we have a purpose, building a better working world, but how do people on our team connect with that? And the way you connect with that is help people find something that's already within them that they don't have the words around, which is their personal purpose and personal vision, and connect it to the work that they're doing, the work that they're doing, and connect that to the purpose of the organization. When you connect those three things together, your personal purpose to the work that you're doing, and then the work that you're doing to the purpose of the organization, that's really the special sauce. So you asked about the programs.
Thanks, Hal, for clarifying that.
Yeah. The program, Pathway to Purpose, it's really, again, Pathway to Purpose and Vision. But Pathway to Purpose, the program it's a two-part program. It's not as I mentioned, not a learning program. It is a self-discovery program that our learning team happens to be incredibly passionate about and is running. It's an ecosystem. Let me start there. It's really an ecosystem, meaning it's the program of self-discovery first and foremost. But then it is the community we create with all of the people who've gone and discovered their personal purpose. Because what we find is that when people discover their personal purpose and vision, they want to understand better and more and spend time with others who have similarly discovered it, to share ideas and understand what are other people doing and how are other people benefiting from it. So the ecosystem includes the program, which is a two-part program. It includes cafes that we do each month. We call it a Purpose Cafe, where we bring in a speaker to talk about the science behind purpose and vision, or we bring in a speaker and a researcher on connecting it to being having a mindful life. Different topics that might be of interest. We have team activities. So when we encourage teams to go through Pathway to Purpose together as a shared experience, and then we have activities that they can do as a team to connect with their colleagues and peers. We have a podcast series where we talk more about the elements of purpose and vision. We have an ambassador community. These are hundreds of people who said, wow, this is amazing. I want to help bring this to life, even for those skeptics. So we have a community of people who run all sorts of activities, and they're essentially ambassadors in their communities within EY. We publish articles and internal articles and videos and other things. So it's a whole ecosystem. The core of it, though, as you were asking about, is the Pathway to Purpose two-part program. Part one is about helping people discover their personal purpose and how to connect it to the work that they do and to our organization purpose. And part two is vision, help people discover their vision and operationalize that and activate it for themselves as well.
Great. And I just want to refer to some of these stats that that you have received from the impact of the program. You've reported that 125% are more productive, and 50% are less likely to have health issues. 50% are more likely to be in leadership roles. 50% are more likely to have meaningful work relationships, and 64% are more fulfilled from their work. So those numbers, I mean, that's incredible. You know, 125% more productive, 50% less health issues. You know, I just kind of wanted to recognize you for that, because especially, you know, we're in the pandemic, post-pandemic, you know, people are in different mindsets, different healing, you know, there's a healing going on right now for some people that have endured, you know, a lot, and some are, you know, everyone's in it, but that, you know, being able to have this available to your employees now and you know, during and post-pandemic, I would imagine that that's you know, really great opportunity or benefit for your organization.
It is, and you know, first of all, it's a great benefit for the human beings that are experiencing this, and certainly a benefit for the organization. I'll share a little bit more about some of the things that we're finding. So, well, let me actually unpack a little bit about how the Pathway to Purpose program works, because I think that will actually inform a little bit of the conversation around the impact that it has. So, purpose is about, as we said, what gives us great fulfillment and meaning. It's an articulation of that, and to do that, as I mentioned, we all have a personal purpose. Most of us haven't articulated. To do that in the program, part 1 and part 2, I always mention part 1 is for purpose, part 2 is for vision. In part 1, when we're going and trying to help individuals articulate their personal purpose, we go back and mine their story. So they share stories from their past, and they're partnered up in groups of 3, typically. It's a triad is the configuration, and they're prompted by certain questions, and those questions are meant to help pull out from them themes around things that give them great fulfillment. And through those themes and through those stories, we then help them craft the language of their personal purpose. So it's not surprising then that when we have helped people realize something about themselves that really is the core of who they are, because it's what gives them great fulfillment and meaning, that when they have that articulation and they're able to connect it to something in their life, in this case, the work that they're doing, because we're doing this at work, so we connect it to the work that they're doing. When we help them to do that, it's no surprise then, hopefully it's no surprise, that the kinds of benefits that you mentioned would be the kinds of things that we'd see. People feeling happier and fulfilled, people are more productive, people connect with each other differently and better. All of these things have knock-on effects because they're all based on what really gives you meaning, and it gives you a very clear lens. So you can start making decisions on the kinds of things you'd want to get involved with. So for example, when you have a clear sense of your personal purpose, and you have a choice, or sometimes you don't have a choice on what projects you work on, sometimes you do, but when you have a choice and you can say, you know what, I'd like to work on that one. If I've given a choice of 3 different projects, say, you know what, I'd really like to work on that one because in my mind, I'm thinking through the lens of my personal purpose. This really aligns with what gives me meaning. Well, it's probably not surprising to most of your listeners to think about that. If you're selecting that project because you feel like it's going to give you great meaning and fulfillment, that you're probably going to give, I don't know, a little bit more effort and energy towards it. You're going to give more of yourself towards that. So, and when you do, you're going to show up a little bit differently to those around you. You're going to connect with differently around those around you. You're going to have different enthusiasm towards the outcome of the project. All of these things, they come together. You know, one of the things that we started looking at, we've had now, you know, Rachel, we had about, we're probably climbing close to 20,000 people that have been through this program now. So we have a lot of information and data. One of the really interesting things that we're starting to see now is people who go through the Pathway to Purpose program, there's about a 17% differential on retention. In other words, there's a 17%, not 17 percentage points, but 17% improvement in retention for those that go through the Pathway to Purpose program than their peers that don't. And we believe, and we're still researching this because this is early data that I'm sharing, but we believe that it's because of the reasons why what we were just talking about. It's when you connect things that fulfill you to the work that you're doing. And I'll also share that we don't always have a choice of the job that we need to do or that we want to do. I mean, nobody, most people aren't held captive by their employer, but sometimes you have situations where it's not easy to change. So totally get that. But when you have a clear lens of what your purpose is, and you look at your job through that lens, you can see how does it align? How much does it align? And if it doesn't align, you might be able to find other things, whether it's at work or even outside of work, to help compensate for the lack of fulfillment you're getting from the job that you're doing, so that you as an overall person have that level of meaning and fulfillment that we all deserve. We all have a right to have. Right? So.
And you show up differently because you have a better understanding of what the work that you're putting into it. What does it mean? And again, if it's not perfect, if you don't feel what you're doing is a perfect fit, I think the more that you feel confident in what you're articulating, then okay, well, this may not be something I want to do for 20 years. However, it's going to give me a good experience right now, and I can take from it and build on it, hopefully at the same organization, or maybe perhaps not, but it'll make you a better person because you are more confident in what you bring to the table and what you can help others do. I truly believe that. Just an observation here, a recommendation. This is something you need to start offering in high schools and colleges, so that when they get out, they have they're not chasing purpose.
Yeah, we've done it. We now offer it to all of our new hires, and we have started piloting it with some universities. So we're doing it. We've run it at a few universities to see, because we're trying to figure out, like, if there's as I mentioned, for most people, purpose was established within you by the time you were in your early 20s. We're just trying to figure out if what age is too young, what age is too young to have this conversation. And we've done it with
but maybe more of a kind of an intro to start thinking about it.
Totally. And we've started doing it with, I mentioned universities, and it seems to work quite well. And so now we've run it at a couple of high schools, and it's varying degrees of success. I would say it's there's if you had 500 students at a high school that went through this, and I don't know, 50 of them got clarity from this. Like, think about the amazing, which some would say, well, like just 10% of the people. Well, all right, well, yeah, that's 10% of the people that, or some might say like 90% of the people didn't really benefit. Yeah, but 10% did. And those 50 people who now have total clarity on what gives them great fulfillment, think about how much better equipped they are than any of us were ever, at least me, when I joined the workforce. It took me a while to get into this kind of work later in my career.
Same. And I think even if it's not resonating necessarily with all of them, maybe in 10 years, because I look back at things that I don't necessarily think that it was that useful, like, okay, maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention there.
Right.
It's great. Well, Tal, thank you so much for sharing your purpose, your vision, and just your passion for what you do. And it's been an exciting episode for me, and I hope I know for sure for others as well that have an opportunity to listen in and learn from you. Is there anything that you'd like to wrap up with today?
Well, I'd love to, first of all, thank you for having me, but I'd love to just spend a moment on vision, because we spent a lot of time on the purpose conversation. And, vision is something that does not get discussed nearly as much, but we think is incredibly important. There's a phrase that we like to use. It's a little bit of a cutesy type phrase, but purpose without vision is blind, right? And the reason why, because vision is, think vision with your eyes, right? So the concept of vision is a description of something you can see, and it's meant to be inspiring. Where purpose is about fulfillment, about the impact that you have. Vision is meant to inspire yourself and others around you, possibly others around you, towards a future, towards a particular a particular future that you imagine. So a vision doesn't have to be, by the way, you don't have to be a visionary. There are plenty of visionaries out there who are generally people who have visions that are so grand and so big and so compelling that other people want to follow them. But mere mortals like me also have a vision. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So right. And so my vision, I'll share my vision, which is something I do like to share, which is I I imagine a world where people are so inspired by what they're learning that they feel compelled to pass it on to others. Now, you could probably see some linkage to my purpose, which is not surprising. It's me, I'm the human, right? And that binds the two things together. But that's a vision that I love to share with others, because when people say, well, what are you trying to do with learning at EY? And I share that vision. That's what I'm trying to do. I imagine, well, people are so inspired by what they're learning, they feel compelled to pass it on to others. Well, isn't that a world we'd love to live in? Like, think about that. How many learning programs have you sat in where it's like, that was a waste of my time? Like, imagine if we were all sitting in learning programs and educating ourselves in ways that we got inspired and found insights and aha moments that we say, I got to share this with others. Well, think about the ripple effect that would create, which would also make me feel good about for my purpose. So vision can change over time. Purpose does not. Your purpose is your purpose, and that's your purpose for life. It's your purpose at work. It's your purpose at home. It's purpose with your family. That's your purpose. Vision could change over time, and you might have different visions for different times of your life. So, for example, we were talking about people who are just out of college. They're not thinking about retirement, but somebody like me, I'm thinking about retirement. What does the world look like for me after retirement? I might have a vision for the work I do. I might have a vision for my kids and my family. We all have a different time horizons, different areas of our life where vision plays a part. And so we also help our people not only articulate personal purpose, but also a personal vision and how to put it to use, which we think those two things together are really, really important.
Absolutely. And I think you have about another 50 years before retirement. So,
well, I will see, but I do love what we are doing as a team and what we're doing for the world. And it's exciting for us. So I hope I get to do this for a lot longer.
And on that note, that's a great way to wrap up for our session today. And Tal, thank you so much again for sharing. It's inspiring for me. And there's you'll see some parallel kind of messages that you have in what we do too, and why research is so important, and how we want to inspire others to be better. So, we're two kindreds at heart here. But thank you again. And I look forward, I think we talked about doing a real live or kind of a sample of a workshop one day. So maybe that's to come.
Be wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Take care.